Let's go make a killing.
All right.
Welcome to the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
10 to the 5 to the 4, play one, touchdown!
The sharpest football contest show in the land.
I'll take the action. My Birds, Benjamin Franklin's team, favored by 1.5 points. I'll give you 3 more.
You're now riding shotgun with 2 former contest winners in Brady Cannon and James Salinas. And getting a former player's perspective with 9-year NFL veteran Mike Pritchard.
Let's go!
As they guide you through strategy, process, and your contest picks each and every week of the season.
I do like the idea of a parlay.
Now here's your host, Brady Cannon.
Welcome in, everybody. It is indeed the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, presented by our friends at Circa Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. It is Season 2, Episode 3. The preseason is over. It is Week 1 of the NFL 2025 season, and it's time to play for keeps here as we're making picks for real. The contest, the deadlines are nearly here, and the field is nearly set for another contest campaign in Las Vegas. By the way, the Super Contest, over $1 million in the pot there. Super Contest Survivor, looks like we'll have over 100 participants there. Super Contest Gold, over 60. Super Contest College, off to a tremendous start. They finished with 1,080 participants in their inaugural season. Good stuff there for Super Contest College. Circa Million, still a little bit of an overlay. Looks like about 5,300 entries so far. They need to get to 6,000 to satisfy that guarantee. Circa Survivor has surpassed the guarantee. There are over 17,000 entries at this point. Who knows? We might have 20 million bucks in that pot. And Grandissimo with nearly 60 entries at 100 grand a piece. So all kinds of contests going on. The season is here. James Salinas is with me. Mike Pritchard is off this week. He'll be back next week. James, great to have you on board. Here we go, kicking off another campaign. And let's dive right in. The first game on the board, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons, a division matchup. The Atlanta Falcons swept Tampa Bay last year. Tampa Bay wins the division. Michael Penix will start at quarterback. Liam Cohen no longer the offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay. What do you make of this one?
Well, that's going to be the issue, I think, is how is that going to impact the passing game, in particular for Baker Mayfield? We know they're injured. They're banged up at the receiver position. Godwin, whenever he's going to come back at some point later in this season, is really just Mike Evans out there and a cast of a few others. You got the rookie. I know Otten was pretty good at the tight end spot. Bucky Irving, that was the one that really surprised, that came out of nowhere last year, rushing the football and catching the ball out of the backfield as a rookie, and really diversified that offense, but not going to sneak up on anybody anymore as far as season 2 for Bucky Irving. But you know, going into Atlanta, this was a show of horrors last year for this Bucs defense, and it was Kirk Cousins. I mean, he absolutely lit up and torched that secondary for the Tampa Bay Bucs, and they were swept last year. So I wonder if they're thinking about if there was a game that was probably scheduled as far as division go. We know division rivals are always fun to watch, but thinking about it from this perspective, this was probably a team, when they saw the schedule come out as far as the Falcons concerned for the Bucs, that they circled, knowing how last year, Brady, they got worked over by that Atlanta Falcons offense.
No, you're exactly right. I am a little bit high on the Falcons, not necessarily for the entire season, but I like the situation with this game. We know in week 1, we don't have any data to crunch. We don't have any numbers, any stats to go off of. But historically, division home dogs have been very successful in week 1. And of course, that's what the Falcons are here. Now, you're not getting the full 3 points, just 2.5 points. It'd be nice to get that field goal for sure. But Tampa Bay was so good on offense last season. I have to believe just naturally they will regress somewhat. And then you include the absence of the offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, who is now the head coach of Jacksonville. And also some injuries. Chris Godwin, not back yet at wide receiver, and Tristan Wirfs, the outstanding offensive lineman, will not be in this game on Sunday. Let's turn to another game, James, that is getting a lot of attention because you have Aaron Rodgers going back to his former home. the Meadowlands to visit the New York Jets. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, his new employer, Justin Fields, a former Steeler, now the quarterback for the Jets. And the Steelers are a road favorite in this situation, laying 3 in both contests. Actually, I take it back, 2.5 in the Super Contest and 3 in the Circus. So you've got some choices here if you want to play these guys in either of the against the spread contests at either property.
Thinking about where the Jets are now, you've got Aaron Glenn coming over from Detroit, defensive coordinator, leaving the Lions and now taking over the reins of really a dysfunctional franchise when it's talking about the New York Jets. And it's been so dysfunctional for such a long time, whether it starts top down or we're talking from ownership all the way down and the rolling through coaches over the last few years. And now with the new coach coming in with Glenn, he's got to reestablish some kind of identity and culture there. And we know he's a risk taker from a defensive coordinator perspective, and that's the strength of this team is the defensive side. But to me, this is going to be a slugfest. I'm not sure where the points are going to come from on either side. I like both defenses, obviously with the Steelers enough. We don't have to go into too much detail. We know what that Steelers is. We talk about a coach that's been there for such a long time in Mike Tomlin. We know the identity of what the Pittsburgh Steelers are, and these are the kind of games that they win by a field goal. So the fact that this contest number is sitting there at 3, it's really not a play that I'm interested in on either side.
Yeah, I think this one is a tough one to figure out. I kind of lean with the Steelers winning the ball game, but I don't know if I want to go there. Again, as a road favorite, the Aaron Rodgers angle is interesting. Some people are calling it a revenge game for the Jets. Well, why isn't it revenge for Rodgers? I don't know. Maybe it's a stay away game, but I think it ought to be, we talked about it earlier, James. A lot of these games, a lot of these teams, we're just trying to get a feel for them. We don't necessarily know what to expect. And I'll tell you, the next game on the calendar here, or on the schedule anyway, is a couple of teams that I'm not really high on, but I'm not so sure about either. And that is Miami visiting the Indianapolis Colts. Miami, in the case of the Super Contest, is a road favorite, laying a point here at Indianapolis. We know Daniel Jones will be the quarterback, taking over the role for Anthony Richardson there. Tua, of course, is back and healthy for Miami, but in the offseason, I'm not seeing many people that are high on either one of these squads, James.
Well, and I'm rightfully so. I mean, thinking about where Miami is and the offensive line issues that they've had for such a long time and kind of just being this finesse team and with the wideouts that they have, a hell of a lot of speed out there with Hill and Waddle for when Tua actually has time to throw the football. They played last year. Miami played in Indy last year, but it was an ugly game and Tua was not available. I think he had a concussion prior to that, so he was not. There was an ugly slugfest game. In this case here, Brady, I don't like either team. I don't think from the perspective from Miami, I think these are two coaches that for the last few years have had high expectations. They've had a lot of talent on these rosters and they've underperformed for the last few seasons. So I think both of these coaches, Brady, for both the Colts and the Miami Dolphins are both on the hot seat.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And this may be, I would guess, maybe the very least popular game in any of these contests, whether it be Circa Survivor, Circa Million, the Super Contest. I don't know how many people have a great feel for either one of these teams. It'll be interesting to see the population, how they gravitate towards or stay away from this contest. Let's get to one more before we get to the break, and that is the Jaguars. Their new coach, Liam Cohen, as I mentioned earlier, takes over in Jacksonville. They will host the Carolina Panthers, who a lot of people are feeling will be improved this year. Jaguars laying 3.5 in both contests, James.
Well, for a team like the Panthers, where else do they have to go but up? They've been they've had such bad seasons the last few years. Yeah, I mean, there was some spark towards the end of the season for the Carolina Panthers, but they were playing bad football teams at that time and teams that were kind of out of it. And really, Atlanta kind of just folded on that last day against the Panthers, and a great job by Bryce Young to pull that game out late. But I like the Jaguars here. I know I hate the hook. It's 3.5 in both these contests, but I really like the Jags here. I think there's going to be a resurgence. Finally, some consistency, I think, from the quarterback spot, from as far as coaching goes with Cohen coming in. I think this is something we can discuss more on the other side here, but I do really like the Jaguars in this spot against the Panthers.
Yes, I agree with you. And we've seen this line move from 3 to 3.5. Maybe by the time we get to kickoff, it even goes to 4. An interesting game for sure that we can discuss further on the other side. We're just getting started here. Week 1, it is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show brought to you by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. We'll be right back with more in just a moment.
Looking for your next ultimate golf experience? Discover Valley High Golf Club, a tropical paradise on the Las Vegas Strip, featuring lush greenery, water features, Balinese tropical plants, white sand, and black volcanic rock, creating an enchanting atmosphere. Valley High creates a memorable golf experience for a typical foursome, a group celebrating a bachelor or bachelorette party, or your next corporate outing. It's award-winning golf on the Strip, Vegas style. Book your ultimate golf experience now at valleyhighgolfclub.com.
Steiner's, a Nevada-style pub, invites you to play the best keno and video poker in Las Vegas. Promos are how we roll, so make the most of your gaming dollars with ongoing promotions, daily free play, bonuses, and more. With a chance to win Knights, Raiders, Aviators tickets, and big money with all those jackpots. It's not only great gaming at Steiner's, it's the 24 awesome rotating draft beers and the best appetizers to match. Steiner's, the Nevada-style pub, with 3 locations across the Vegas Valley. Steiner's, I love this place.
Welcome back into the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Brady Cannon and James Salinas with you. At the bottom of the hour, we will shift over to Survivor conversation and see who we're selecting there. Our team, we have 5 entries. We have 3 Survivor entries. We have 1 Circa Million entry and 1 Westgate Super Contest entry. Right now, talking about games against the spread. In the last segment, we touched on Jacksonville and Carolina. I like the Liam Cohen factor here as well, James, where he has familiarity with the Panthers. Of course, played that team the last couple of seasons while he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll see how that one goes in Jacksonville as they get their season kicked off with their new head coach. This is a very interesting game that's had a lot of buzz in the offseason, and that's the kind of upstart New York Giants. You talk about coaches on the hot seat. Maybe that is Brian Dable as well, but a lot of people are really high on this new defensive front. Boy, they are just loaded with some of the draft picks they have assembled across that defensive line the last couple of seasons. They will take on a division rival in the Washington Commanders, who come off of a fantastic season under their first-year head coach, Dan Quinn. Now in his second season with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, they bring in Deebo Samuel. A lot of stuff going on between both of these teams, and Washington, a pretty good sizable home favorite, James.
Division games like this, these are, I think so many things. Brady, you and I grew up watching football many, many decades ago. We can age ourselves a little bit. You don't get older, you just get wiser. But I think we've seen a shift with divisions, especially because there's been a lot of realignment within divisions, and we haven't had those long-standing rivalries like we used to. I can remember being here in Denver. Denver and the Raiders was a huge rivalry for so long. I think a lot of the luster has kind of fallen off with some of these rivalries, but I think for a team like the Giants and Washington and all those teams within the NFC East, these are always big rivalries. So I tend to always lean towards that dog price here. We're talking about 6.5. But it's the Russell Wilson show now, and how long is that show going to be on? I don't think it's going to have a full 17-episode show in New York for Russell Wilson. The arm strength isn't there anymore. The decision-making isn't there anymore. He's really been forcing the ball. We saw that in Denver. We also saw that in Pittsburgh. So now having to go into this Washington matchup, I don't know what we're going to see out of this team offensively. It's a really bad offensive line for the Giants. We know bad offensive lines don't travel well on the road, especially in division games like this. But the other side, Brady, is what are your expectations for Washington? I think when you far exceed expectations like they did last year, now the expectations are it's really to get back to the Super Bowl, get back to the playoffs, get deep run, and potentially get to the Super Bowl. Now that's a lot more to live up to, as opposed to you're coming in and being able to sneak up on teams. They're not sneaking up on anybody anymore, especially Jalen Daniels. He has alerted everybody in this league, especially that defensive front, like you mentioned there in New York.
Yeah, this team is really something. Enjoyed watching the heck out of them last year. It'll be interesting to see. You expect some regression, like you say. Are they going to live up to what are now very high expectations? But how much will they regress? I think they're still a very good squad, well-coached. Interesting game there between the Giants and the Commanders. I'd kind of be with you. I lean a little bit to the dog, but Boy, those Giants have a very difficult schedule, going to be a tough campaign for them. I think this next game is very interesting from a Las Vegas football contest perspective. The Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. This was a 6-point spread. It's down to 5. Some money coming in on the home dog. Again, home division dog. They're a popular angle in week 1. But I think so many people that play football contests are just scared to death of the Cincinnati Bengals. They took out 40% of the survivor pool last year with them losing to New England. We know historically under Joe Burrow, they have gotten off to awful starts in the month of September. That has supposedly been addressed in the offseason this year, making a point to not fail in the opening month of the season again. If they do, it could be Zach Taylor's job. A lot going on here with this matchup with the Browns and the Bengals, James.
No, you mentioned the slow starts in September for the Bengals under head coach Zach Taylor. Actually 1-5 straight up in season opener since he's been the coach there. And I think we saw a shift this preseason. There was a lot, they got a lot of reps as far as the starters go, especially on offense with Burrow and Chase and getting that offense go. We know this team is as explosive as any team in the league, especially through the air with the passing game. And everybody's paid now, so everybody's feeling good about that. So expectations have rise, and they have the capability to be able to go out and put up 30 plus points, but they also gave up 30 plus points each and every week last year. Now with the change from Amaruno, defensive coordinator, now with Al Golden, I think there's nowhere else to go but up. The floor, they've met the floor. I mean, it's really pathetic from the perspective of the defensive side. Just for a team, it's a physical sport, and the fact that you have such a prolific offense, you couldn't get off the field to be able to win games consistently there in Cincinnati. I think that's why we saw a lot more starters. They don't want to get off to that slow start. Now you're going to have to go in and play Cleveland, but as that home dog, divisional dog, which we like, especially those a team like Cleveland that we know what they're going to be on the defensive side with defensive coordinator Schwartz, Brady, but it's Joe Flacco again. Do we want to have to put our money and have to watch Joe Flacco go out? We saw him last year, Brady, and he didn't want to get pressured. I mean, he's an old guy. He's been around such a long time and a great career, but you can see he wasn't seeing the routes. He was seeing the rush. He was feeling footsteps and seeing shadows and was not looking down the field. I don't know how the Browns are going to score. I don't know what it is that's going to be Flacco. Flacco's going to start for maybe the next few weeks if he's healthy, but I think beyond that, it's just the mess in Cleveland. So I can't take the home dog here plus that number.
Yeah, I didn't mind taking a look at it when it was 6 earlier. I'm not comfortable with the 5. And, Joe Flacco was a great spark for Cleveland a couple seasons ago. But you're right. That has worn off a little bit. He's 2 years older than that now. And yeah, I don't know what to do with this game. It feels contrarian to take Cincinnati, and maybe that's a good way to go. Let's squeeze one more in here before the break, and that is out in New England. A lot of people high hopes for Mike Vrabel coming in and changing the culture there with these New England Patriots. Of course, a Super Bowl winner with this squad himself back in the day, and he'll take on another former New England Patriot head coach in Pete Carroll. Speaking of changing the culture, trying to do that with the Las Vegas Raiders. He brings first-round draft choice Ashton Genty into town. A lot of high hopes here in Las Vegas for the Raiders. I think this is a very interesting game, and I also think interesting that it's 2.5 points in favor of New England and not that very key number of 3. How do you feel about this one?
I'm thinking about I think we both coaches, Brady, we obviously know who they are and what their expectations are and their identity when they come in as a head coach, especially Vrabel from the defensive side and the cheerleader that we have on the sideline now for Las Vegas and Pete Carroll. But these are two teams that I'm going to really just need to take a few games and just see how that culture changed, because it's not something that happens overnight, and it definitely doesn't happen in week 1. This is a stay away game for me.
Good one to watch, that's for sure. A lot of watching and learning this week. We'll be back with more in just a moment on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
San Diego is home to Wolfpack Hospitality Restaurants, located in beautiful La Jolla. Stop by Cove House, Shore Rider, and Dough Mama Pizzeria on your next trip. Visit Cove House, a top 100 brunch in California, or Shore Rider, serving up margaritas, fish tacos, and a vibe that will make you feel like a regular in no time. For a slice of New York-style pizza with a California twist, it's Dough Mama Pizzeria, where the wings and pizza draw compliments from around the world. Go to wolfpackhospitality.com, and we will look forward to seeing you at Cove House, Shore Rider, and Dough Mama Pizzeria.
Welcome back into the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Brady Cannon and James Salinas with you. Week 1 is upon us. The picks count this week, ladies and gentlemen, and we are just rolling through the card here, previewing each and every game for you to get ready for not only week 1 of the contest season, but hey, week 1 of whatever bets you're thinking about making as well. And let's make a point. Sometimes your contest plays are very different from what your actual bets are. James, we have arrived at the Arizona Cardinals visiting the New Orleans Saints. Not a lot of people that have high hopes for New Orleans this season. I personally am high on Arizona, laying 6.5 points here on the road. As bad as we expect New Orleans to be, I don't know if I'm comfortable with this.
Not at all. Arizona is a team that I like them as a dog, especially a road dog in the division. We've seen them compete we've seen them compete at San Francisco and being able to compete in Seattle. But when they're that favorite, whether they're at home, and in particular now you're going to go on the road and being almost a touchdown favorite here, that is not a side that I even considered. Usually, Brady, when I look at the board, when the boards come out and the contest lines come out, first thing I'm looking at is I'm looking at the dog side, and I'm looking at which dogs do I think have a chance to win outright. And that one gets circled, and that one, now I can put some more time in that and see if that's a dog that I want to move forward with to use as a contest play. I don't think for New Orleans, I don't know if they have the opportunity to win this game outright, but if there is an opportunity for Arizona to lose this game outright, I could see that. And it's more so just with Kyler Murray. He's just not a quarterback that I want to put any investment in, whether I'm betting the games myself or I'm using him in a contest play, especially when there's a favorite. And I feel like when the weight of the world comes on him, when he is that favorite and those expectations have been raised for him to have to go make those plays, that's when I see that he falls short and he tries to force things and extend plays. We know he gets outside the pocket and can extend plays with his legs, but he does force the football. And I think now going into the dome, that's the other thing, Brady. It's every team has optimism coming into the season. It's week 1. Everybody's excited. The fans are excited. Hell, we as bettors are excited. Let's kick the damn ball. Let's get it. It was good to have some football last night. But here, as a road favorite, expectations here with Kyler Murray, this is not a play for me to make.
Yeah, no, I hear you loud and clear, and I think you bring up a good point about week 1. We expect the Saints are going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and I think they kind of know that themselves. They're trying to rebuild. But what are you going to get? Who knows? They could surprise because we haven't seen anything yet. We just don't know at this point. And, from a contest standpoint, maybe the Saints are a really good pick getting the 6.5 points because you can't believe that a lot of people are going to be on that side. You could be going against a lot of people being on the Arizona Cardinals, and that's contest strategy. You want to try and pick out winners that nobody else is on, and that could be the Saints in this case. All right, the next game on the board, the Denver Broncos, right there in your backyard, laying a big number. I think this got as high as 9 for a minute, but 8.5 in both contests here with Broncos coming off a great season last year in Bo Nix's rookie campaign. That defense is outstanding. They've added more pieces to that defense, and they will be hosting rookie Cam Ward, the number 1 overall draft pick, and the Tennessee Titans. Not a lot of expectations for the Titans team either, but it's a lot of points, isn't it, Mr. Salinas?
It's a ton of points. I'm not laying that in week 1. I know Denver, and they always start off strong when they play these home openers in altitude and playing at elevation at a mile high. That is definitely a significant advantage for the home team here, and teams having to still trying to get themselves in football ready shape and especially tackling shape. And I just think Denver, from the offensive standpoint, it's not a team that runs the football and pounds you and grinds you down. So I don't know if that's going to be such a big advantage because they're just not a consistent team that runs the ball and keeps defenses on the field. But the other side is kind of similar to Washington. Not high expectations last year for the Broncos, highly superseded those expectations for sure. Now the expectations are so much higher. Can this team live up to it? We'll see. I don't like the side with the number. I'd be leaning toward taking that number of 8.5 with Tennessee.
Yeah, this is, I think you're spot on. Very similar situation with the Commanders are the Denver Broncos. Exceeded expectations last year. Now a lot of people have them going to the Super Bowl. Well, I don't know about that just yet. I do expect that defense to be very stout, but what are we going to get out of this offense? And then you talk about, taking the Titans here plus the points. That could be similar to the New Orleans play. You have to believe in Circus Survivor. The Denver Broncos will be the very most popular selection as the biggest favorite on the board. gosh, do you have the stones to take the Titans in Survivor? Maybe not, but in the against the spread contest as well, the Titans could be a very low popularity play that could have you moving up the leaderboard if they cover that 8.5. Same thing with the Saints. I think you'll definitely be in the minority taking the points with a couple of these ugly dogs, and sometimes that's the way you have to think about playing these contests. Like I said earlier, you don't necessarily run to the window and make bets with the same games that you're playing in these contests. When we come back on the other side, we're going to shift over to Circa Survivor. And this is a tough mentality for both James and I. He mentioned the first thing he does is look at the dogs. I'm kind of that way as well. When you're playing Survivor, you kind of have to gravitate towards favorites, or you could be on the outside looking in a hurry. We'll come back and talk Circa Survivor. Also, Super Contest has got their own Survivor contest this year here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
When the football contest crew isn't busy dominating the field and making plays that leave opponents in the dust, they're doing something just as exciting. They're playing My Vegas Slots. It's a top-ranked, free-to-play mobile app that lets you earn valuable real-world rewards from amazing partners like MGM Grand, Bellagio, and Norwegian Cruise Line. You can score hotel stays, great meals, show tickets, and more just for playing. Download My Vegas Slots today from your favorite app store. And if you're anything like Brady, James, and Mike, we know you're going to love it. That's a winning play you won't want to miss.
Ladies and gentlemen, check us out on all the social media platforms, how you can find the program, watch the program, listen to the program. It's all there at footballcontestshow.com. Again, footballcontestshow.com, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter at FB Contest Show, Instagram, all that good stuff, footballcontestshow.com. Brady Cannon and James Salinas with you, and we shift from against the spread talk to Survivor talk. And specifically, we have 3 entries in Circa Survivor, which now has over $17 million in the pot, breaking records every year, are they, over there at Circa. Boy, what a phenomenon this Survivor contest is. And of course, Super Contest, the Westgate now is involved in a $5,000 Survivor contest. They've got about 100 people involved in that one. Very interesting as well. I know 28 people have already advanced with the Philadelphia Eagles playing that Thursday night game. James, the big favorites, we talked about Denver. That's one of the biggest spreads on the board. You've got the Arizona Cardinals as a road favorite. That's a big one. The Washington Commanders as a 6-point favorite at home. And then the Cincinnati Bengals took out a lot of people in week 1 as a home favorite last year. They are a road favorite this year. What are your thoughts on week 1 in Circa Survivor?
I think before getting in and digging into any of these teams in particular, I think it's more so thinking about the numbers. And there's various strategies of how you have to play this Survivor, especially this year. You talked about it, over 17,000 entries, $17 million in that prize pool. And we know it's, as of Friday morning, that's going to go up. It's going to eclipse 18 plus. So does that mean that we talked about not so much going contrarian in the Circa Millions and the Pick 5 contest, the ATS, but not always wanting to be on the consensus side? And I think we saw that last year, especially in the first few weeks of Survivor, the consensus, the top plays, the top point spread, the biggest favorites on the board getting whacked and wiped out each and every week. Cincinnati in particular, a couple of times. We had Baltimore in week 2 losing at home to the Raiders as probably a 10, 8, 9, 10 point favorite. So thinking about, well, with that many entries, Brady, in the contest, let's call it 18,000 entries. With that many entries in the contest, we don't want to it is Survivor. You want to just keep win in advance. But, I think especially early on that, to me, the strategy would be not to go contrarian. We're not saying, well, if Denver's going to be the highest pick, we're going to take Tennessee on the other side, but more so let's find some of those games where it's a low spread that folks are not going to be playing, and it's not a high profile team. So we're not talking about Kansas City or something like that, who's a 3-point favorite playing the Chargers tonight. Not a game that I want to play, but from that perspective, Brady, it feels like not so much contrarian, but let's find some of those kind of off the grid, off the radar, those ones that are going to be further down the board that we just like to win. That's almost kind of a coin flip game, because I think there's a handful of those in there that we can discuss.
I want to ask you about Cincinnati. And you're right. We had 3 entries as a part of the show. Our contest entries. We had 3 Circa Survivor tickets, and we went 2 out of 3 in week 1. We had 1 ticket on Cincinnati. I can't remember who the other teams we had, but those made it through. And then eventually we lost, like everybody else, like you said, on the Ravens. But I wonder if Cincinnati could be a good play this year. We talked about that emphasis to avoid that cold start, that they have done under Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor. They've been awful in September, and they addressed that. They played more starters in the preseason. They're very aware of this thing. At the same time, you have a number of Survivor players that are scared to death of this team because they lost their money last year in week 1. I wonder if it's a little bit of a contrarian move to be on Cincinnati this season.
Well, I don't know if it's contrarian, but it's probably not going to. Obviously, there's going to be folks that have PTSD from last year, whether you took Cincinnati in the first week or was it the third week that they went? It was the third.
Yeah,
they whacked out a half.
Lost to the Commanders on Monday night or something like
season. Yeah. And it's this whole offense and how prolific they were. What are they couldn't move the football against the Patriots, and the Patriots are not a good football team last year. So, but that was the non-division game. I just think divisional games, especially early on, those are always challenging. And we're talking about a road team here in Cincinnati having to go face Cleveland. And yeah, talent-wise, at least offensively for sure, the better team. But maybe it's not so much contrarian, but I just don't think it's going to be. Yeah, I think folks are going to be gun shy about wanting to take the Bengals again, especially if you lost on them. If you didn't lose on them, maybe you're not thinking about it from that perspective. But considering how many thousands of entries went down multiple weeks on the Cincinnati Bengals, including us, I don't know, is this topic for discussion to say, do we want to try to get back in there? Are you over that? Are we on? I guess the one thing is we got knocked out by week 3, week 4 totally. At least it was out of our system, so we didn't have to go through. I know there's the Survivor show and everybody's having a fun and it's so. I don't know if that's good. That's not good for my disposition. I don't know if that's good for some of my organs of my liver, Grady. Sometimes it's better if you're going to get it and you're going to get whacked. May as well get whacked early until you make that deep run. I've only made 1 deep run in the Survivor contest. That was at Thanksgiving. But beyond that, I've been whacked out pretty early.
I tried to identify a game that, I felt good about and have been for maybe the past month or so or more. And I thought the Steelers in New York at the Jets was a pretty interesting one. And you talk about some of these shorter spreads, maybe not just gravitating to the biggest favorite on the board. I do feel like Pittsburgh is the better team. They're favored, obviously, a road favorite at New York. I feel like Pittsburgh's going to find a way to win the game. You mentioned it earlier, do what Pittsburgh does, find a way to win the game by 2 or 3 points, something like that. I feel like that could be a pretty good Survivor play in week 1.
If you want to take a road team to start the season, and I think that's some of the challenge. I know there's kind of this playbook of stay away from road teams, especially early, until you have to start taking teams later in the season if you're surviving that long. Taking home teams, taking larger favorites, staying away from divisional games. Now, obviously, with Pittsburgh, that's not a divisional game with the Jets. But it is a road game, and a team like the Jets that is going to have to try to run the ball, especially when it's low scoring. I think if it's a road game that I'm looking for and kind of flip the tables back to Cincinnati, can this team score? And we know Cincinnati can score. So if it becomes a close game and it's like, all right, we got 1 possession to go win this football game, I'll trust Joe Burrow to make this happen on this last drive, whether it's needing 7 or needing 3. I don't know. Do we trust the Pittsburgh Steelers if it's a tight game and they need to go down there in the fourth quarter? Aaron Rodgers, who's just he's 1 step away from a pulled calf or a pulled groin. Do we trust that this Steelers offense is going to be able to make those plays? We saw it last year. That's why they've had revolving door quarterbacks since Big Ben went out. It's just an offense that it's not a good offensive line. There's not much of a running game there. And now Aaron Rodgers having to step in here. He's not just going to come out and sling it. He doesn't throw the ball down the field. It's going to be a lot of short passes. I just don't trust a team that struggles to score to say that's going to be my Survivor play on the road.
James, what about the Washington Commanders? We spoke about this game against the spread a little bit earlier, and I think the Giants absolutely have the capabilities to hang around. But can they win this game? Does Washington eventually win? Is this something you would consider in Survivor?
No. No, I don't want to play Washington in this fight. Again, it's a divisional game. And especially thinking about where the matchup is. If the Giants are able to win this football game, it's going to be because of that defensive front. It is, I think, as this season goes on, by far it's the strength of this team coming into the season. And I think as the Giants progress through the season, they're going to win football games because of that defensive front. I don't love the offensive line for Washington here. I don't love the fact that there's high expectations for Washington. So it's a different mindset, a collective mindset for that team, and in particular that offense. So, and now with Jalen Daniels, everything that he did, sensational season last year. You know that Giants team, there's a lot of competitive pride in these games, and these guys get paid on the other side of the football too. You know they're going to want to get in some of that ass of Jalen Daniels and get after him and keep him in the pocket and put him down on the ground and make him taste some of that dirt. They're going to be bringing it. So from a team like that, I don't want to take a team that went from worst to first in a sense, as not that they were in first place in the division, but where they made it to the NFC Championship game. I just think the expectations are too high. I'm not sure where this team's mindset is playing as that favorite and the expectations that come with that. This is a team where I think for the Giants, that defensive front can win this football game because they're so talented. Not a play for me in Survivor with Walker.
All right, more to come on the other side. We've reached the late window of start times here in week one. We start to break them down in just a moment right here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Want to gamble like the pros? At LasVegasAdvisor.com, you'll find the world's best how-to books, software, and strategy cards featuring blackjack, poker, video poker, and of course, sports betting, including the Stanford Wong Classic Sharp Sports Betting. Don't forget LVA's Member Rewards coupon book, offering discounts on dining and entertainment, including a buy one, get one for the awesome lobster buffet at the Palms, and more than $700 in gambling-free play, match play, and bonus offers. Up your gambling game today at LasVegasAdvisor.com.
Las Vegas isn't just a place to play, it's a great place to live. Louis Payon with Magenta Real Estate is a trusted 5-star real estate professional who's called Vegas home for over 3 decades. Whether you're looking to buy or sell, Louis will guide you every step of the way with proven strategies that deliver results. Call Louis today at 702-849-7160. That's 702-849-7160. Louis Payon is the official realtor of the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Welcome back in. It is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circa Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Brady Cannon and James Salinas with you. Mike Pritchard will join us next week. Let's dive into the afternoon games. We start in the Pacific Northwest, another division game and another home division dog in the Seattle Seahawks. They are getting 2 or 2.5 points, 2.5 in both contests here at Circa and the Westgate. The 49ers on the road have had their way with Seattle as of late, but really that new regime now in its second year, a new quarterback in Sam Darnold. This is probably another team that I feel is going to be decent, James, but I'm not completely sure about. Kind of feel the same way about San Francisco. I think this division is incredibly competitive. I don't think any team is great, but I think they're all pretty good. I think the NFC West is very interesting. What do you do with this opener here in Seattle?
These are, if you're talking about a place that has home field advantage, and you talked about San Francisco and having their way up there in Seattle the last few years, which they have, but this is not the same San Francisco 49er football team. That window, that Super Bowl window was open for them for quite a while, made it to 2 Super Bowls, 2 heartbreaking losses to the Kansas City Chiefs over the last few years in the Super Bowl. I just feel like that window's starting to close, and we're seeing the injuries starting to mount up. We saw it last year for sure for so many players on that, so many starters on that roster for the 49ers. And once you start getting injured, especially the leg injuries and lower body injuries, it starts to manifest elsewhere in your body. And I just think for a 49er team that is not healthy coming into this game right now, they're definitely not healthy at the wide receiver position. They had a lot of turnover and a lot of change on that offensive side too. And McCaffrey, and he's back out on the field. I don't think he's going to have a full 17-game schedule under his belt this year either. But a team like Seattle, this team's gotten younger as the 49ers have gotten older. The Seattle Seahawks have gotten younger, especially on the defensive side. I really like the physicality and the speed that we've seen from the defense. Their safeties are hitters. Their front seven can get after it. They can stretch out on those running plays. I think this is going to be such a defensive-minded team for Seattle, and the switch with Kubiak now, Clint Kubiak running the offense for Seattle, getting more to that zone reads, that zone blocking scheme as far as the running game is concerned. You've got two strong runners, young runners there that are healthy for the Seattle Seahawks. We talked about this earlier in kind of our production prep, Brady, and you kind of talked me into this side. I wasn't sure where to go with this game. I did kind of lean Seattle, but the more you talked about it with me and thinking about the change in philosophy, rushing the football up front, and I love the physicality on the defensive side for Seattle. I like Seattle here plus that number.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's a beautiful play if you're looking to tease them up to plus 8.5. You can't do that in the contest, unfortunately. I could see San Francisco winning this game by 3 points. I could also see Seattle winning this game by 3 points. But I think it's going to be an extremely competitive contest. You've got Robert Saleh coming back, former ties to Seattle. You mentioned Clint Kubiak has worked with Kyle Shanahan. There's a ton of familiarity here. And I don't know if either team's going to run away with this game. So I think points will be at a premium. Give me the 2.5 of the Seattle Seahawks there. Next game on the board is the Los Angeles Rams. We stay in the NFC West, and they will welcome the AFC South to SoFi Stadium. Sean McVay and company installed as 3-point favorites. Matthew Stafford, no action in the preseason, nursing a bad back, getting older, certainly, but still one heck of a quarterback. And this Rams team is very, very interesting. Talk about young on defense. They were young on defense last year. Just defensive rookie of the year, outstanding, and high expectations for DeMeco Ryans and his Houston Texans team as well. They get better on defense. Couple good clubs here who, James, we probably should expect to see both of them in the postseason, I would imagine.
As long as they're healthy as far as Stafford is concerned. And so he'll do what he needs to do to get on the field, and they'll game plan accordingly so that he's not having to sit back there and take on that Texans pass rush for a lot of deep shots. They have plenty of options when it comes to guys that can win at the line of scrimmage. When it comes to Puka Nacua, and now you have Devontae Adams. Thinking about where they're at, those guys can win at the line of scrimmage, and they can get open. It's not having to run deep balls. They can rush the football with Kyron Williams with a new contract there. I really like this matchup, and I think about the matchup from, you talked about it, the defensive side with the Rams. Not only with Jared Verse coming in as that great pass rusher from the edge, but also Poona Ford. I think Poona Ford coming over from the Chargers now to the Rams really is going to come in and play that one technique in that 3-4 that they run. And I think they're going to be able to move some of those pieces that were on the interior on the outside now. I think that really diversifies that Rams that pass rush for the Rams, and it's not just going to be centered on Verse. And you look at the matchup here, Brady, having to go in and play this Texans offensive line. It is the worst in the NFL. This is not a good offensive line for them. They have a rookie left tackle. They picked up Andrews at center, who was hardly played off. He was on waivers. Christian Kirk is not going to be in this game. We know that their receiving core is really banged up, and I think the biggest loss here is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, not only from a production standpoint of how he runs, but the edge that he brings and the toughness that he brings and the swag that he brings and the confidence, that guy is the one that's delivering blows as the running back as opposed to absorbing those. And he's kind of that back that gets better as games go on because he starts to wear down defenses. He's not going to be there. So that is a massive loss, not only from production, but also toughness standpoint. I don't know where the points come from in this game against the Texans. I love this Rams team here with that defensive front and this shift, like I said, with Poona Ford coming in. I think they put it on 3 points. I think this line is mispriced. I think the Rams lay it on the Texans. It's my best bet on the board.
Sean McVay, 6-1 straight up and against the spread in season openers. Doesn't always get it done in preseason, but he certainly does when it counts. One more game here, James, and this is a big one. This is the Detroit Lions visiting the Green Bay Packers. Detroit has won the last 3 times they have visited the Packers in Lambeau Field, but they have a new defender you might have heard of by the name of Micah Parsons.
Is he going to be out there this week? Maybe, maybe not. He hasn't been on the field all summer long, dealing with the back issue that he has. What are they going to do to have him put him out there? He's not in football playing shape, for one. And criticism from Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys was that he didn't help stop the run. well, this is what is going to be the strength here again for the Detroit Lions in this matchup. Why have they won those games? Because of how they've rushed the football. We saw the out for Gibbs the last 2 seasons, especially last year. Tremendous 1-2 punch with Gibbs and Montgomery. I really like Gibbs in this matchup. We talked about this again in production meeting earlier. I really like the Detroit Lions. You sold me on this one. I like the matchup up front, and I feel like they have something to prove on the other side now with the Packers. High expectations saying, oh, well, you got your big piece to rush the passer. You're a Super Bowl shoe-in now. That's not going to be the case, especially in the division game. I really like Detroit in this matchup, getting that small number.
I'm with you. We'll be back with a couple more games and wrap up the show.
Look no further than footballcontest.com to get the info you need to succeed. Covering Circa Million, Circa Survivor, Grandissimo, and every super contest at the Westgate Superbook. Reserve the most trusted proxy service in the business now at footballcontest.com. Maddie and Tony have been leaders in the industry for 20 years. They submit your picks while you focus on picking winners. Experience matters. Go with the pros at footballcontest.com and start winning now.
All right, we have reached that time of the show where we release our contest selections. And of course, we do reserve the right to change if something crazy happens between now and the deadline. But for the most part, we ran with our selections on Fridays. I don't know if we changed the entire season and feel good about these selections. We're going to start with the Atlanta Falcons in both contests in Circa Million and the Westgate Super Contest, getting +2, hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll go with Atlanta. We're going to lay the 3 and a hook with the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Carolina Panthers. We're going to take the Seahawks, another division home dog, getting 2.5 at home against a division team in the San Francisco 49ers. We'll take another division dog here, this one on the road, the Detroit Lions, getting 2 in the Super Contest, getting 2.5 in Circa Million, and we'll lay the 3 points with the Los Angeles Rams at home, hosting the Houston Texans. Now, James, this is where it gets interesting. We have 3 entries for Circa Survivor, and we have 2 favorites that we like, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Los Angeles Rams. And the decision is, how do we divide those 2 teams between 3 picks?
Well, I think it's looking at when are you going to take these teams? We know that because in Circa Survivor, the Thanksgiving and Christmas really kind of, you have to diversify your strategy with that, because especially this year, there are 3 teams that are playing both on Thanksgiving and Christmas in the Dallas Cowboys, the Detroit Lions, and the Kansas City Chiefs. And man, if you look at that Christmas schedule, it's going to be murder trying to find one winner in those ones. So you got to save some of these teams out there. But it's a matter of, well, you have to go 20-0, so you're going to use 20 teams. Which of those 20, minus those teams you have to save for Christmas and Thanksgiving, as well as maybe one of their opponents or 2, you're going to have to roll the dice with some of these teams. And I think here with the matchup with Jacksonville, having Jacksonville at home, a lot of hype on the Panthers. I'm not really sure where this hype is coming from for the Carolina Panthers. It's been a bad team. It's been a bad franchise for quite some time. Not that the Jaguars have been great either, but you got a Jaguars team playing at home, new head coach coming in to try to nurture and try to soothe and get Trevor Lawrence back on track, and a coach that actually probably will believe in him. And it's going to be hot and humid down there, and you just can't simulate that humidity and the stickiness that you have and how that drains your body down there in Florida at this time of year. So I think it's a great advantage. But then looking at when else would you take the Jaguars? If the Jaguars are going to be one of your 20 picks for Survivor, Brady, when else would you take them during the season? Because that's something you have to kind of project out. I really like the matchup with the Jags. So of our 3 and are splitting the other one with the Rams, I think the 2 of the 3 are going to go on the Jaguars.
Yeah, and something to think about too. If you're not yet signed up for Circa Survivor or Super Contest Survivor, the Super Contest Survivor is basically traditional. You don't have the little quirk that Circa involves where you have Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's interesting strategy-wise for sure. $5,000 is the entry fee there. Roughly 100 people signed up so far, so a pretty good prize pool indeed, and a little bit of a different Survivor contest. it's old Survivor, if you will. Circa is really the new Survivor, where you have Thanksgiving and Christmas involved. And James, you pointed out to me, as far as our Rams selection, coming up right out of their bye week, they will take on the New Orleans Saints. And I think that's going to be a popular strategy in Survivor this year. You try and find spots where you can pick on the Saints. Coming out of a bye week, taking on the New Orleans Saints, that could be a good spot for the Rams. Maybe we'll use them down the road with one of our other entries.
Yeah, we'll still have, if we can get through with these two, then we'll still have two that are live for the Rams come week 9, I think it is, when they play the Saints. But that's where it is. I don't think either the Jaguars and the Rams, these are not going to be high on the board when it comes to most teams selected for Circa Survivor. So again, not so much contrarian, right, Brady? We're not taking the opposite side of some of the top teams, but more teams that are kind of off the grid, off the radar, that aren't going to have a lot of selections, and probably, as in the case of the Jaguars, not a team that's going to be a highly selected team at any point. If you can find and get some winners on the Jaguars in week 1, now you've got one of those 20 out of the way and survived week 1.
Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great week 1. Let's hope you survive. Let's hope you do well against the spread. That is going to do it for our show. Again, the Falcons, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, the Lions, the Rams, Circa Survivor. We are on the Jaguars and the Rams. For James Salinas, I'm Brady Cannon. Good luck, everybody. We'll be back with more Las Vegas Football Contest Show next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Don't you just love football? God, what a fun sport.
Subscribe today on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts to receive weekly alerts as soon as the show's available. Good luck with your contest selections.
Pay that man his money.
And we'll talk to you next week.